everyone, and welcome back to Lavender Cottage Fibre Arts podcast. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. This is our podcast where we talk about predominantly knitting, but also some crochet, sometimes embroidery, weaving, sewing, and ceramics as well. Technically not a fibre art, but we sneak it in. It's still, it's all good. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be our 16th episode, I'm pretty sure, and it's just going to be our one of our standard format podcasts where we talk about completed projects, works in progress, and future plans. So my name is Anna. Sorry, I shouldn't make you introduce yourself when you're just having a sip of tea.
I'm Pia.
And we are twin sisters, identical twin sisters from Melbourne or Naarm in Australia. And we are recording this podcast on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. So we just wanted to also acknowledge and extend our respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, as well as any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who might be watching this video. Mm-hmm. I think we don't have too much to report, like sort of admin-wise, except I guess just in general for all of our podcasts we do include any like other podcasts or like designers or yarn dyers, patterns, anything that we kind of talk about will always be listed in the description box below, and if we didn't make it very obvious, you can also always leave a comment and ask, and we will be happy to clarify any sort of information. I think we had a fair few new followers after our last video, so thank you very much if you're a new
Thank you for joining.
Subscriber on the channel. We just enjoy being able to share our work with more people, and it's always a free way that you can support a creator is to like the video and subscribe to their channel. It's always welcome. But aside from that, and Pia's been on holidays as well.
Yes, I went to Queensland for about a week. Yeah, which is in the north of Australia if you're not from Australia. So it's a popular destination for people from Melbourne to go in winter because it's a lot warmer.
But where you went is sort of like a very remote, sort of not inaccessible, but like
so I went to a place called Hinchinbrook Island, which is maybe about sort of kind of halfway between Townsville and Cairns, off the coast obviously. And so you have to catch a boat to get to the island, and they have like a sort of a permit system that they only allow 40 people on the island at a time, I guess, to kind of preserve the...
And you said there's like no permanent structures.
I mean, they have like those like long drop like toilets, but that's kind of the only
like there's
permanent...
no houses or anything.
Or like there's no shop or anything like that on the island, so it's just camping. So it's nice and relaxing.
So I guess we'll get stuck into our segments and start sharing our projects.
Alright, so first up we have Hot Off the Hooks, which is our segment to present or share any finished objects or completed projects. So anything that we finished since the last episode. And I think sometimes you will have things that maybe you finished a while ago, but if it was one of those sort of like secret ones, I guess, that you can't share until...
Yeah, I do have one secret test knit that I finished ages ago, but I'm still not able to share that one.
So that will be a future one.
I think, from memory, that one, the pattern is coming out in maybe October or November, but I haven't heard anything finalised from the designers, so I'll just be waiting. And I'm doing another test knit at the moment that's a secret test knit, but that one I think that won't be published until like next year. So it'll be a while before. But then I guess I'll just be like, surprise. And we obviously don't have any what I'm wearing. Like this is just kind of
these
store-bought
clothing
jumpers.
But so because I've been on holidays and just reasons.
Just life has been lifing.
I don't have anything to show, unfortunately.
Okay. And some of your whips are like quite big, long-term
like
projects.
the Afghan blanket.
I only have 2 finished objects, which is maybe a bit low for me.
You're slipping your standards. Normally I have to like change like while we're recording.
He's like my magician's assistant.
Yeah. I'm like changing the socks on the sock blockers because you've got half a dozen pairs of socks or whatever.
No, today I only have 2 finished objects and they're just both pairs of socks. So this is my first one. I'll just hold it up a little bit closer so you can see the yarn.
Is it in focus? Do I need to move my head?
No, I think so. I think it was okay. So these are just a plain vanilla sock that I knitted from some yarn from Maximoo, who is a indie dyer based on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. And this colourway is called Wizz Fizz, but I think he doesn't actually dye this colour anymore. So I'm not too sure if when I bought it, it was a one-off or it, you know, he just phased it out. I think sometimes when dyers discontinue, it's also because like sometimes they can no longer get...
the actual like dye has been discontinued by the
I guess that can sometimes happen. So they're just my standard vanilla sock pattern. I knit these with my standard sock needle size is a 2mm needle because I'm quite a loose knitter and I knit most socks on magic loop. And I just do for my sort of, if I just want to like have a mindless zone out sock that I don't have to think about anything and I don't have to read a pattern, I do a 2x2 rib, usually for 20 rounds for the cuff. Then I usually do about 60 rounds for the leg. I do a fish lips kiss heel, and then I think this is called a wedge toe. But this is the first time where I've actually done a slightly different toe. So when I did Knitting Natty's Perfect Fit Socks course, she had a pattern for like a more ergonomic toe. And I did like the fit of that, but what I didn't like about it was very hard like to memorize the pattern, because I think on one side of the foot you change something every 4 rounds and the other, or on one side of the foot it was a 4-round repeat, like on your big toe side, and then on the little toe side it was a 3-round repeat or something like that. So it basically turned the whole thing into like a 12-row repeat, which like that just I found that inconvenient. So what I decided to do was actually, and normally how I would have done the wedge toe is decrease every second round until I have I think 16 stitches left, and then decrease every round I would decrease every second round until I had 16 stitches on each needle, so that's 32 stitches in total, and then decrease every round until there's 8 stitches per needle, so 16 stitches in total. And I think that basically turns into 20 rounds for the toe in total. But this time what I did is on the little toe side I did 1 decrease every 4 rounds, and then on the big toe side, no, that's wrong, on the big toe side I decreased once every 4 rounds, and then on the little toe side I decreased every 2 rounds, so you kind of have something a bit more like that. And so I did that, so it's a 4-round repeat basically. And then once I got to having 20 stitches left on each needle, then I did 4 lots of that. So I did 16 rounds, and then I just decreased on both sides every round until I had 12 stitches left, and then I kitchened. And I found for me, I know I did a really bad job of explaining just then.
Yeah, like you'd probably have to like write it down or like draw a diagram or something.
I might just, maybe I can just make some brief notes and put it in the description box for anyone who's interested. Like for me, that gave me a better fit on my big toe side, and it just meant that, having only a 4-round repeat was much easier to keep track of than having a 12-row repeat. So I tried that with these and I was happy with the fit. So I think in the future I might just keep doing that for the most part. So that was my first pair of socks. My second pair of socks, I've actually had these on the go for ages because these were a test knit that I did for Jess Thompson, who is Knittin' Knotten on Instagram, and it's her zigzag R pattern. So it's like instead of being like a horizontal chevron, it's actually like a vertical zigzag pattern. And the reason I guess that this has been a whip for a long time was because I knit the first sock for the test, and then I had other test knits, so the second sock kind of
feels quite cool. Sorry.
Yeah, like I'm really obsessed with this pattern. I think it's really cool because I don't I mean, maybe I'm just haven't looked hard enough, but I haven't seen any other sock patterns. Like I've seen heaps that have like a sort of horizontal zigzag from like that, a chevron effect, but not from vertical. And it's very clever. Like I think it's easier than what you might think to do. It's just basically a combination of stockinette and garter, and then you're strategically increasing and decreasing to achieve that zigzag.
To make like vertical.
Yeah.
It's not sort of like it's not like a harsh, like it's almost sort of like wavy kind of.
Yeah. Because I had knit the first sock by the test deadline, and then I had other tests. Like I just didn't start the second sock for ages. But now I have knit both. I'll hold it up a little bit closer so you can see the yarn, because the yarn is actually like it's a mostly tonal with very subtle speckles.
It's sort of like a very light green.
Yeah, so the yarn is from Rainbows and Sprinkles. She's a West Australian based dyer, and this colourway, I don't think she has this one anymore, but she does have some that are similar, that she does like these sort of pastel sort of tonals with very, just the slightest sort of light dusting of speckles here and there, but it's not like a super speckled colour. This one was called Nova, but I don't think she has this one anymore. But yeah, I really like the effect of this. And look, it's not, I think it's not a completely mindless, like I think the chart was about 24 rounds, the repeat, but it does kind of, once you've done one repeat, it kind of becomes a little bit intuitive. Like, I SSK on that side of the zigzag. And I increase on the other side, and you know, and because you can see where it's traveling, you kind of know more or less. Like I did have to look at the chart, but I kind of maybe looked at the chart every couple of rows just to kind of make sure that I was on track, or if I was picking it up after I'd put it down, I would just look at the chart to kind of but it's definitely not one that you could do while, like, I don't know, at the movies or something like that. If I was watching TV, it would be if I was watching something that I like, didn't really mind if I, you know,
like you wouldn't do it if you were watching TV with subtitles or something.
Yeah, exactly. And these ones, because I think with Jess's patterns, she tends to recommend a tighter gauge just for a more durable sock. So she actually, her patterns are written for a 2mm needle, but I used a 1.75 because I usually have to size down a little bit. But it did mean, I think, from memory, I think these socks, it was a 76 stitch or 72 stitches, I can't quite remember, but it was like a bigger stitch count than my normal sock, but a sort of a firmer fabric. And I think because the zigzag bit does get a little bit gappy anyway, so I think maybe if you had a looser gauge, it might just be like not look as neat. So yeah, that is, I think I didn't even say the pattern name, the Zig-a-Zag R sock.
You did, because I thought of the Spice Girls.
Oh, I did. Okay, cool. And this pattern,
I guess that was the inspiration for the name.
Yeah, it was. I think so. And this pattern has now been released, so it is already available on, I think, Ravelry and maybe either her own website or one other I know she has them available on a platform that's not Ravelry.
Like Etsy or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. But like you would find the link through her Instagram. So yeah, those are my two finished objects for this episode.
Okay, so now it's time to move on to our Whip It Good section, which is where we talk about any of our whips, which is an acronym for work in progress. So any projects that we've got currently on the go. Do you want to go first, or you look like you've got a great big pile of different things to talk about?
I have quite a lot of whips. Yeah, okay, I'll go first. I don't mind. So the first one I did show in our last podcast, and this is almost a finished object actually. So this is my Bahama blanket. It's a Tunisian crochet project. And the pattern is by Toni Lipsey, who's TL Yarn Crafts on just everywhere, I think. And the yarn I used for this is, I used my Grungy Goodness Advent calendar from Little Woolly from last year. And then I also supplemented it with other like minis and a few like leftovers from socks and stuff I had that I thought kind of matched the vibes of the Grungy Goodness Advent. So I think I've done a reasonable job. And I honestly, like, I think I did have it written down on a piece of paper somewhere, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head like which ones came from the Advent and which ones didn't. I think in our last episode I did actually put a progress keeper where I was up to. So I've done like from here to the progress keeper, and I have actually bound it off, but I haven't sewn in any of the ends yet and I haven't blocked it. And normally in my mind I consider a project finished once it's like off the needles or off the hook, even when I haven't woven in the ends yet. But because there are so many ends to weave in for this, I kind of think it's probably
Have you started doing some of them though?
I have. I think I've done about 10, but there's
I mean there's no ends in this bit.
Yeah, I've done probably up to about, I've probably done from where the end that Pia's holding,
which is here,
to maybe about here. But yeah, there's still like probably
there's
3/4.
Still some ends here though.
Oh, some of them I've woven them in, but I just haven't trimmed
you haven't
them.
cut them, okay.
Because I trim them after it's blocked. But yeah, given there's so many ends to weave in, I kind of think that I can't really call it an FO until I until I thingo it. So I think in the end I did count, I ended up using 44 minis. And I made it because it has to be a multiple of 14 stitches plus 1. So I chained on for my foundation chain 141. So the width of it is sort of like maybe, do you reckon that's like 75 centimeters ish?
75
kind of thing.
Centimeters.
And it's probably about doubly or a bit more long as it is wide. Basically I wanted it to be the size that I can wrap it around my shoulders and it fully comes around, but that it's not so wide that if I'm sitting in a chair that I'm going to be sitting on it. That's kind of how I did it. I think when I block it, I will block it to be slightly wider than what it currently is, but not much. But yeah, so hopefully in our next episode it will be finished. I just hate weaving in ends, so but any other...
So don't expect me to help.
Any other... I actually went to a knitting meetup yesterday with some friends at the pub, and one of my friends... I kind of joked, like, I'll bring this project and, like, you can all help me weave in my ends. And then I didn't, because I was like, I don't want to, like, carry this huge blanket around with me, because I was going on the train. And then one of my friends forgot to bring a project, and she was like, damn, I have nothing to work on. I was like, oh, I should have brought this blanket, because then
you could have just had
you could have woven in my ends.
Free labour to weave in all the ends.
But so the other details about it, I guess, I think it's recommended to do this project with, it's a DK weight project, but I used just a fingering yarn held double, and it's recommended to do it with a 6.5mm hook, and I did it with a 5.5 millimeter hook. And yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I used 44 either 20-gram minis or sock leftovers, but I basically made sure that it was, you know, plus or minus a few grams, but it was like a 20-gram leftover, because I just didn't want like one stripe to be like really thick or really thin relative to the others. And in the original pattern, it is recommended that you like fade the yarns together. I didn't do that. I just used the same skein held double until it ran out, and then I added a new colour. So that's the main differences. But yeah, I'm happy with how it's turned out. It feels quite squishy. I think that's just like Tunisian crochet makes quite a dense fabric. And this is actually my first ever Tunisian crochet project, so I'm quite happy with it. And I think this is a really good blanket, I think, like to use scraps. Like I think it looks very effective and just has like a little bit of a difference compared to just doing like sort of straight lines. Like I think that chevron effect just gives like a cool like point of interest to it. So yeah, I would highly recommend that as a sort of like a stash buster or scrap buster project for anyone who's looking to use up a bunch of scraps. So yeah, that was the Bahama blanket by Toni Lipsey. Do you want me to just do all of my whips, or do you wanna...
you might as well just go with all of them. How many do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And apart from that one, they're all knitting, actually. That was my only crochet. So this one I think I also showed in our last episode, but I had just started it. So this is the Vlek Pullover by Nancy Marchant. The yarn that I'm using is from Aimée. It's their Corrie Confetti. The sort of brown colour is called Nancy's Speckled Sweater. And this, they call it peach. I think like maybe it's just with the brown, it looks more pink than peach, but it's called Aimée's Peach Sweater. And it's basically an all over basket weave sweater that you do these sort of blobs or blotches of the contrasting colour with intarsia. I'm just like feeling it feels quite cool, the texture. Yeah, like it's a cool texture. I'm knitting the size 5, and because it's intarsia, so you knit it flat and then seam it. So this is the first piece, and I think in our last episode I did actually put a little progress keeper, so I was only up to here in our last episode. So this is kind of what I've done since then. So I think I've only got a couple more rows to go before I start shaping for the shoulders and the neckline. But this is just the first piece, and then the back is kind of almost the same, but you just I guess the shaping at the shoulders and the neckline is a little bit different. I think it's recommended to use a 4mm needle, but I got gauged with a 3.75 millimeter needle. That's probably the main details that I think would be interesting. And with the pattern, so this pattern is not really a written pattern, it's really just a chart with a little bit of guidance. But you get 2 copies of the chart. So one copy has all the flecks in there, and I think it is a paid for pattern, but I think if I show the chart from back here, like people can't really use the chart. You get the chart with the version of the flecks, like as Nancy knit them, but you also do get like a blank one if you want to kind of design, like if you wanted to do like circles or like flowers or something. And actually I will say as well, I think this would be a good pattern if you had like one really special skein. This is a DK weight yarn, by the way. If you had like one skein of a DK weight yarn that you wanted, like didn't want to knit socks or a beanie or something like that, like you wanted to use it in a garment, but you kind of wanted it to be kind of the star of the show, because I think for most sizes of this pattern, I can't remember, I think some of the very largest sizes do use more than one skein of the contrast colour, but I think for up to about size 7, I think you only need one skein of the contrast colour. So, and I guess like you could also make some of the little patches smaller, a bit smaller, leave out some of the smaller ones. Or you could maybe not do them on the arms or something like that. But I think this could be a cool pattern. Or if you just did them on the front or something. It could be a nice way to kind of highlight like a special skein of DK weight yarn that you thought, didn't deserve to be hidden in a pair of shoes. So, and I suppose if it was just something that you really liked, but you only had one thing of it, and if you had no way to get any more, could just be a nice to be able to actually use it for something. So I thought I would just mention that as a little thing. And I guess because like the basket weave, you're kind of like alternating between knitting and purling the whole time anyway. Like I don't think it being knit flat actually makes like more effort. Not being able to knit it in the round, and then of course the intarsia is much easier to knit flat than in the round. That is that project. It's my first ever intarsia project, so it's going well, I think. So my next FO, I will eat some humble pie, because I think I said in our last episode that this would be an FO. I mean, it's pretty close. And you said you were like, oh really? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I'm surprised that I doubted you. Had you only like literally knit like one row of it or something? I hadn't even cast them on. Okay. So these are my Brisbane socks. This is a test knit that I'm doing for Kath Martin, who's the Mindful Melbourne maker, on Instagram and YouTube as well. So this is her latest pattern, and I think the pattern is actually already out. So I unfortunately didn't finish the test in time, but for reasons that were a bit outside of my control, which I'll see in a second. It's a 4-ply fingering weight sock, and it just has this, I'll hold them a little bit closer.
Sorry, I think maybe it's...
So it's a bit hard to see like that it's not on the blocker, but it has this sort of chevron detailing and a sort of like it's a simple sort of lace chevron with a little bit of lace. Maybe easier if I actually like you might be able to see the pattern a little bit easier when it's a bit stretched out. And I think she kind of designed this with self-striping yarn in mind, but it also looks nice on like a non-self-striping. So the yarn that I'm using is a sock set from NNK Yarns, and it was her sock set for Christmas 2023. And I chose to use some of her yarn for this because she is a Brisbane-based dyer. So I wanted to use, a Brisbane dyer for the Brisbane socks.
Makes sense.
And I did, so with Kath's patterns, she includes a few different heel options. I think this pattern had 3. You could do an afterthought heel, a Flegel heel, or a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and I did the slip stitch heel flap and gusset. The reason that I didn't finish these on time because this has actually never happened to me before, but the cable for my needle broke. So these are ChiaoGoo interchangeables, and like the cable broke from where it connects with the needle. And I think ChiaoGoo is very sort of like well known for having like very good warranty. Like they say that their products all have a lifetime warranty.
I never know what that means.
Yeah,
though.
like
is it the lifetime of the person or the lifetime of the product? Because
like
if it breaks, can they just say, "Oh, that's its lifetime"?
Yeah. Like, well, that's what my dad was like. He's like, "Oh, but the lifetime could be 6 weeks," and I was like, I'm not sure about that. But I don't know if in like 50 years, if I was like, "Hey, this broke." Like, I think it would be fair enough if they would be like, look, that's just probably from wear and tear. Like,
beyond, like, what you could reasonably expect.
For the product to do. But I bought it maybe about 18 months ago. And so I emailed the place where I bought it from, which was an online knittingco.com.au. And they said that because I had purchased it more than 12 months ago, that they would not replace it, but I could contact ChiaoGoo through their website and request a replacement, which I did because I thought, well, the worst that will happen is that they just say no. But what I didn't realise is, I guess because they're an international company, they did send me a replacement cable, but it didn't come from Australia. Like, I thought they would have just picked like the closest distributor
and just reimbursed them to send it to you.
But it came from somewhere in New Zealand. I mean, ChiaoGoo is not a New Zealand brand either, so maybe that's just like the replacement distributor for this region or something.
Like the Asia Pacific kind of
thing. But anyway, so for about 2 weeks I couldn't work on them because I didn't have the cable, so that's why I didn't finish. And I feel bad that I didn't finish them before the deadline, but Kath was very nice about it.
I mean, I guess you would have still been able to give feedback about most of the pattern.
Yeah. I did have one little bit of feedback, and she did incorporate that into the pattern, so... and then I actually would have finished them yesterday, but then the other thing that happened to me, I sort of got a bit foiled because I think like when I have a 20-gram mini, I think in the past I've always had a little bit of yarn left over if I did 15 rounds for the cuff and then the heel and the toe in the contrast. So I thought, well, to use up all the yarn, I'll do 18 rounds for the cuff then instead of 20. Like I know with 20 I'm really pushing it. But I actually then ran out of the contrast colour with an 18 round cuff about 4 rows before the end of the toe. And I think that is because, I don't know if you can see, but this is one of those high twist... Go away, Pia. No, I'm just kidding. Go behind my head. It probably won't show. It doesn't matter. I'll just explain. So it is one of a high twist sock yarn. So it's a 2-ply fingering weight. So it's 2 strands of yarn plied together. But this is actually only 365 meters per 100 grams instead of like 400 meters. Yeah. So I had to rip back for the toe, and then what I ended up doing is I've just done, and I don't think you will really notice it in the grand scheme of things, I've just done the first 2 rounds of the toe in the main colour instead. Yep. So I've got, I don't know, whatever this little blob of yarn is, but I've only got to do 4 more rows. So I'll definitely, be able to finish them all in the contrast colour. But that I had to rip out the toe and sort of redo it. But so they'll definitely be finished probably tonight, to be honest. And so these ones, yeah, I knit them 2 at a time on magic loop, and I used a 2mm needle. The pattern recommends a 2.25, but I usually size down for socks. The other thing that yeah, I guess you just would want to double check your gauge with these. Kath recommends in the pattern that you use your normal sock needle size, I guess, for the heels, cuff, heel and toe, but she actually recommends to size up a needle in the chevron bit, because she found for her that her tension was a lot tighter when she was knitting the chevron, and that she actually couldn't get it over her foot. So she recommends that you actually size up to a 2.5mm for this bit. I actually forgot to change needle sizes, so I knit like almost the entire leg with a 2mm before I realised. But then when I tried it on, it was actually fine. I could get it over my ankle quite comfortably. So I guess like you might just want to check like after maybe 10 rounds or something like that, check and see what your gauge was, whether you wanted to change needle size or not. So that's the Brisbane socks, and the pattern has just been released, I think in the last week actually, so that is yeah, currently available. So 2 more whips. My next one is my current pair of vanilla socks, and these ones I've actually decided to give 9-inch circulars another chance. So I did try knitting with them once before, and I didn't like it, mainly because I found my gauge was a lot looser. So I actually got a pair, like 2 1.75mm 9-inch circulars, so that I can knit kind of 2 at a time. And so this is basically what I'm doing is I just did the cuff on one, cuff on the other, and then because I'm doing like a scrappy sock with 10 rows of each colour, I just do like one colour, then switch to the other sock, etc. And then I knit like the heel. I did the whole heel on one sock. I'm still partway through the heel on the second sock. So I've used for my cuff, and then I'm going to use for the heels and toe as well, some leftover yarn that I had from Tess from Fluff and Nonsense. So this is her BFL sock yarn, so it's a 75/25 BFL nylon, and the colourway is called Cocoa, and this is the yarn that I use for those sunken cathedral socks. But I had about 30 grams of it left over. And I just thought, like, I don't know why, I just felt like doing these sort of blues with like a neutral colour. I just thought it looked nice. And so I have 4 different blue scraps. I don't know if it will be obvious what the 4 ones are. So this is the first one here, this is the second one, this is the third one, and then I feel like my 4th one and my first one are actually quite similar. So this is the 4th one, and this is then back to the first one. Oh, there we go.
It just because the camera wants to focus on faces.
So I know that this one is from Hugh Loco, and it's called About Damn Time. That's actually the one that I did use for the Stephen West surprise sock along that I ripped out because I wasn't a fan of it. But the other 3 are all from Little Woolly scrappy packs. So I actually don't know what the colours are. I really wish for this one here, the second one, I really wish I knew what it was, but it doesn't matter. And so I decided, because I think in total the number of like stockinette rows I have in my sock for the leg and the foot is 124. So I'm just going to do 10 rounds of each colour, and then the 4 colours will be repeated 3 times, so that gets me to 120. So I think for the last 4 rounds I'll just do 11 rounds with each colour, and I don't think you'll really notice that, like, some of them, sometimes the colours have 10 rounds, sometimes they have 11 rounds. I don't think that will be noticeable. So yeah, that's those. So I'm onto the heel flap on my second heel, on the second sock, and I'm just doing a fish lips kiss heel. So my normal sort of vanilla sock recipe, just that I'm using a 1.75mm needle, and I did try it on and I can get it over my ankle, so hopefully the fit will be good. So then my last whip is something that I just cast on yesterday. At our I didn't cast it on at the meetup, I cast it on before the meetup, but I wanted to be able to do a little bit of it at the meetup. So my knitting group is currently doing a knit along that we're calling the fluff along. So for the fluff along, you can knit any project you want with any yarn that you want, as long as it is a fluffy yarn. So it can be mohair, can be alpaca, doesn't matter, as long as it's got some fluff. So the pattern that I'm doing where is it? I am going to be knitting the Broom Sweater by Andrea Mowry. I'm going to use some DK weight Suri alpaca. This is the one that I purchased because I think the pattern was written with the Odang base from Farmer's Daughter Fibres, but that's like a US based one. But Chloe from Woolen Works has, I don't know if it's exactly the same base, but it's a very similar base in terms of the yardage and the composition. So it's a 90% Suri alpaca and 10% silk, and it's a DK weight. And this colorway is called Fur Coat. This was part of her Barbie collection. So I haven't even finished the neck, like I've barely started. I am going to be knitting the size 5 of this. She recommends I think a 4.5mm needle for the stockinettes. I got gauged with a 3.5mm needle, and so I've sized down to a 3mm for the ribbing because it was recommended to use 4.5 for the body and 4 for the ribbing. So I'm using 3.5 for the body and 3 for the ribbing. And so I think at the moment it's a bit hard to tell like what the colorway looks like, but I'll show you like in the skein. It's sort of this off-white with I guess in the sock yarn it has sort of like light grey and black speckles, but on the fluffier bases it's a bit more of like a
just kind of blended
like a watercolor effect, I would describe it as, and it's probably maybe a little bit easier to see in my gauge swatch. Like,
why does it have these like loop bits?
Oh, this is a way you can do like a cheetah swatch in the round. Like, because you want to, if you're going to be knitting the garment in the round, you want to measure your gauge in the round. So if you leave a long loop on the back, it just means that you can like stretch out your gauge swatch flat to block. Because some people will just have the yarn really tight across the back and then just cut through it. But it just then means that you can't, like you couldn't undo this and reuse it. If I am running low on yarn and I need to use this yarn, if I'd cut through all of those strands, I wouldn't be able to reuse it.
Or you would have to sew in a lot of ends.
Like I think it would just be silly. And so, I mean, I think the speckles are obviously going to be a little bit more sparsely distributed because this is sort of quite a small circumference. I haven't quite decided if I am going to do helical knitting or not. I think if I am, I'm definitely just going to knit the neck and the short row shaping before I start helical knitting. Like I don't think there's a good way to alternate skeins in short row shaping, or like if there is a good way of doing it, I'm not aware of it. So just for the moment, I'm just doing it as is, and then I will decide whether I want to helical knit on the body and sleeves or not. But feel this yarn.
Yeah, I did. It's very soft.
It's so soft. I feel like this jumper...
I didn't want to like rub it against my neck because I don't want to get any makeup on it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I don't put makeup on my neck.
No, but like if it goes like a bit on your chin or whatever.
That's true. But that's kind of partly why I chose this colour. Like I have this idea that I want like just like a white fluffy jumper, but I didn't want something... Like I think like just
true white,
if it's
I guess,
totally white, I think that would just be like very impractical.
Yeah.
So I think this is like gives me the same like white fluffy jumper vibes without being really hard to take care of.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably all I wanted to say about that project. I think I said it's the Broom by Andrea Mowry. I'm knitting size 5. The yarn is from Woolen Works and it is her DK Suri silk base. I think she doesn't have this yarn available anymore. Like because it was from like the Barbie collection was sort of like
you mean
a
that
limited...
color, but does she still have that base?
Yeah. And I think from her, like when she did an in-stock update for like leftovers she had from the Barbie collection, I think there is still some yarn available on her website, but I'm pretty sure this one is sold out.
Okay.
But and I think she said she's, I guess, like wanting to maybe not release like new collections of yarn like all the time because like Chloe, she also works full time. So I think she said her next collection is going to be sometime like early like April or March next year. So it won't be for a while that she has like another big collection launched, which that's totally fair enough. But that is that one there. So I think that is all of my whips. So over to you.
So my whips, I just have 2 things here. I've got this, I I can't remember where I was up to the last time, but this is my hue shift Afghan, which you can be like, oh, that's very small, but because it's the hue
I think
shift
last
Afghan.
time you had finished one
Yes,
panel.
yes. So that it's a pattern from Knit Picks, and I'm knitting it in their Brava Sport. I just purchased. They have like you can buy a kit for this pattern that includes the pattern and the yarn, and so it's in 4 panels. So this I started a new panel because I've completely finished one, and then another one that I'm sort of like 3/4 of the way
And
through.
is each panel, is it 25 squares?
Yes,
Or, so it's like 100 squares in
Yes.
total. Yeah.
So that's that one. So that will be like, I guess it's like a bit of a long term.
And this pattern, I guess it's hard to see at the moment. Maybe I'll like put a photo of like the finished blanket.
Juliet's
but
hair
the
in.
way it works, I guess, like from the name Hue Shift, is that you.
It's
well,
like
you
kind of like
it,
it's kind of like a crisscross rainbow. So like it goes from, you know, like white, yellow, sort of cream, kind of like orange, and then fades into like greens, blue, purple.
Yeah.
And then you have the rainbow going in the opposite direction. So,
Yeah.
So,
So
they kind of
this is like
crisscross
white
over
and
each
white.
other.
So then this one will also be white and yellow, will it? And this one will be yellow and yellow.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So it like kind of crosses over in a, I don't know, almost kind of like how like tartan sort
But
of.
this
like
is
crosses
2
over.
different colours, isn't it?
Yeah. That one's the white and cream.
Ah, and so is every square something and white or no?
No, so I think this panel that I've started, the previous panel that I knitted was where like you had the white row, like you had the vertical white row and the horizontal white row meeting. So then in sort of the diagonal line across the middle, you had squares of
solid colour.
Yeah, but this panel is going to be, every panel is mixed.
Okay.
Every square is
I
mixed.
think when I look at the picture,
I think you
of it
kind of have to
overall,
look at the like pattern chart to
be like,
figure it out.
Yeah. Cool. And are you just using like the recommended needle size? Like you haven't made any modifications, or like you haven't changed the size of the mitered square?
No, I cast on the same amount of
Was this
stitches.
the pattern that you said that lots of people said that if you just purchase the kit, it's not quite enough
Yeah,
yarn?
quite a few people said that they ran out. So I actually bought 2 kits just to make sure that I would, if I ran out, I didn't want to have to then buy another kit and potentially get a different dye lot. So I thought, you know, and like I think...
Well, I guess if it was hue shift, you'd be like, it just shifted a bit more.
Hue shifted. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I suppose also because like the mitre square kind of effect, it probably wouldn't be all
Super
that
obvious,
noticeable
yeah.
if you changed in like the next square kind of thing.
But I guess like with the leftovers, you could just make any sort of colourful...
Yeah, and
I guess you probably wouldn't be tempted to knit the exact same pattern again with just a smaller mitre square, but you could knit like a granny square, granny stripe, whatever.
Yeah, and I suppose that kind of like acrylic yarn is maybe good for like baby projects and stuff because it's fairly soft and I guess that it's washable.
Machine washable, yeah.
And then the other whip I've got is the this top that I started knitting, which is called Heart on Fire. It's just a free pattern from Drop Studio. So that's kind of, I've just been kind of knitting the, would you call it like the waistband, like the bottom bit of it.
Yeah.
And so this is in a bamboo yarn, which I think was from the Hobby website, but I can't exactly remember, but I guess we can put the name of it in the...
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's just like it feels very nice, and like because the style of this top is sort of like a camisole type top with a bit of a lace pattern, like a kind of a summery top. So I thought in like bamboo would be nice because it feels quite sort of like soft, but I feel like bamboo, like against your skin, it feels like kind of cool as well.
Yeah, because I guess like Melbourne climate, like it's not super, like we're not living in like a tropical climate, but it definitely does get over 30 degrees Celsius quite frequently in the summer. And I think, do you know, even if it's like once it gets to about the mid-20s, I think wearing like wool is probably, like even if it was just like a tank top, I think is probably becomes a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
this will be my first like attempt at like garment knitting. So
you're very brave doing it in black.
Assistance from you.
I mean, I've never knit this pattern before either. And then I see you're using, are these bamboo needles as well? Okay.
Yes. Because that was something that I did read, like some suggestions of working with bamboo, because I guess it is quite
slippery.
It is quite slippery, that having the
just
bamboo
sort of like
needles
the stitches fall off
are
the
a bit
needles
more grippy
if you use metal needles.
Yeah, they don't.
I've never knit with wooden needles before.
They feel like toothpicks, honestly. Like I sometimes
yeah, it kind of
feel
reminds
like I'm
me
gonna break
of
them.
those skewers that you
Yeah, like from a barbecue,
for like a barbecue chicken skewers or something. Yeah,
if you broke your needle, you
just
could
stick a skewer on there. Yeah, maybe.
Go to the barbecue section of the...
I guess you just have to be careful, like to make sure that you don't just like shove them in a bag or like, I think you probably, I don't think you would break them from like knitting with them.
No.
But like if you sat down on them or like if
not be
put it in a bag and then the bag got like pushed up against something, whatever, could break the needles. Cool. So you said you were about to start the lace. Is that where you're up to?
Well, I think I've just kind of finished the waistband, because the waistband is just sort of like ribbing.
Yeah.
And then the body, I think, is sort of like mostly stocking it with just like a bit of a lace pattern. So I thought that would maybe hopefully be a fairly sort of easy introduction for me.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, you're brave doing it in black yarn, but like if that's the garment that you want, like that's I guess what you have to do. You probably just need like very good lighting. I think that's the main thing with black yarn. It's just sometimes a bit hard to see your stitches.
Yes, okay.
Pia's a little bit short-sighted though, so that like works in her favour.
That helps me.
Well, I mean, you just have like good close vision. Whereas I'm long-sighted, so I have not great close vision without my glasses on.
So yeah, that's that.
That's all of our whips.
Yes, the other whip that I do, I mean, I feel like I often just have things that sit for ages and don't get quite finished.
Oh, Pia, to be honest, so does every single crafter. Like, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, you're talking about me right now, aren't you?
Things kind of languish on Whip Island for a long time.
Yeah.
But so today we're recording this episode on the 1st of September, so the first day of spring. So I did have a while ago, I think I showed some of those like ceramic bells that I made with like flowers on them, which I feel like are quite sort of spring.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some new decorations in your garden.
So yeah, to finish off those ones, which really the only thing that I have to do to finish them is order the like cord to hang them with. Because I don't have anything. I think I wanted to get something that was like synthetic.
It's like weatherproof kind of thing.
Yeah, because if you use cotton, like if it gets wet and stuff, I think it will eventually rot, and then obviously
like it will fall on the ground and smash
and break. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I guess we probably head into our last section now.
Mm-hmm. So now we have our last section, which is called Dream Weaving, which is where we mention any kind of future plans or future projects. We also will sometimes have like a haul type of thing if we've purchased any new supplies, but I don't have anything. No, you don't have anything to share either. So
I haven't cast on anything with the yarn that I've purchased, any yarn that I bought in Bendigo. So it'll be like you can't buy
anything more until you at least start using up some of that. Yep, that's probably a good self-imposed rule.
Yes. So do you want me to go first for dream weaving?
Go first.
So I have 2 dreams to weave. The first one, and I am kind of, I guess I was watching Madeline, who's Mad About You. That's her podcast. She's from Queensland. And she was doing a thing called Accountability August, which for her, I think her accountability, like she's trying to finish some projects that have been in progress for a long time. But also, I think just do a bit more crafting. So for her, she wanted to do like craft like every day. For me, I don't think I have a problem with that. Like I think I do end up doing some form of craft almost every day. But I think my issue is that I am always wanting to cast on new things and then there are a lot of things that then don't get finished. So for my accountability project, my dream weaving is actually, I just have 2 projects that I started and haven't finished and I want to finish. So the first is this pair of socks, which I've shown them before.
They look almost finished.
Well, they kind of are, except they're only half finished because this was a test knit that I did for Jess Thompson, Knit and Knotten, and it's the Oh Me Miserum socks, but I actually knit them in 2 different sizes. So because the first one ended up being a little bit tight for me,
So you need to unravel one
Yeah,
of them
so I
and
need
re-knit
to,
it.
basically I knit, I think that one sock.
Do you know which is which?
Yes, because one sock I knit on a 2mm needle, and I can't remember what size it was, the medium, let's say, and it was a bit tight. So then but I didn't get gauge, so I sized down a needle size to 1.75, but actually sized up in terms of the garment size. So smaller needle but bigger sock, which gave me this one, and I can tell which is which because you can see this has a tighter gauge.
Okay.
You can see.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to rip out this sock, relax the yarn, and then re-knit it. So that's why they look finished, but they're not. So
Too bad you don't have one foot that is
smaller than the
smaller
other.
than the other,
Yeah.
because then you could have just.
Yeah, but I mean, you can see the fabric is different as well. So I mean, probably most people wouldn't, but I know. So I think it would just bother me. And the yarn that I use for this is from Heather Made. It's her luxury sock base, and the colorway is called Grasshopper. So it's just like a nice kind of minty green color. So that is my first accountability one that I want to do this before I keep casting on other things, because I did actually add up the total number of whips I have at the moment is 19, and to be honest,
I thought you were going to say like 90.
Oh no, I mean, but some of them though I haven't touched for months, so I want to, it's getting a bit silly, just either frog them, you're not going to finish them at all, or do
because I suppose that's the thing, like if you really don't like something, or it's too hard, or for whatever reason
it's not fitting you or whatever, but make a decision, don't just
I
leave
suppose
it.
it's the same as people who like kind of force themselves to like keep reading a book that they're really not enjoying.
I am one of those people,
I
have to finish this to like make up my opinion about it. But you should sometimes just cut your losses and let it go.
And I suppose that's like ideally like that you would do that early on before you've put a lot of time and effort into it.
Yeah.
Like obviously you have to have enough time put into it to figure out whether you like it or not, but if you really don't.
So this is another one that I actually started knitting this last year, and I haven't worked on it for ages. The pattern is called the Beekeeper Sock.
Sorry.
Please hide, Pia. Yep, thank you. So it's an all over, well, not all over, just on the front, cabled sock. But I guess because the cables, you do like left and right leaning cables, they come together, it ends up making this sort of like honeycomb texture. The yarn is from Manos del Uruguay, and it's their Alegria base, which is just their sock yarn base, and the colorway is called Paradise. I think it's probably easier to see the color on the stockinette side.
It's very a paradisical.
But I'm actually and I already had to rip back quite a bit, because I think this is the first time I've ever done a toe up sock, and I think I miscalculated where to put the heel, so it was like way too long, so I had to rip back.
Like a clown sock.
Okay. Well, I would have been a clown if I like persevered with it, because like it just wouldn't have fit me. So I ripped out the heel and then just didn't do anything else. But I think I'm actually going to completely frog it and start again, because I'm just worried that my tension will be completely different. I'm just going to start from scratch.
Been such a long time.
But I do really like the pattern, and the
colour's nice.
And I think it looks nice in this colour.
Like if you weren't going to finish that, you should definitely use that yarn.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think I'm just going to start these again. Sorry, I think Pia had a bit of tea go down the wrong way, and she just had a bit of a coughing attack. So I think what I was saying before that happened was, now that I have knit a lot of socks, I think that I might actually see if I'm going to go to the trouble of starting this pattern again, I think I might actually see if I could knit it in as a top-down sock.
And just follow the pattern for the cabling part.
Yeah, because I think when I started these, I had only knit like 2 or 3 pairs of socks that I kind of was just like,
you didn't feel confident.
You just follow the pattern kind of thing. Whereas now I think I would be confident to, basically
slightly alter the pattern.
Yeah, and like change the heel construction if I wanted to, or whatever. Like I think I would feel confident enough in my abilities to do that. I guess it would just, the main thing that I guess I would have to be careful with is like the cabling obviously changes your gauge. So I suppose I can probably use a stitch count from this pattern in terms of like the circumference, but then just convert it to a top down. I think I do want to learn at some point how to knit tie-up socks, because I think if you have a limited amount of yarn, it's better to, well, it can be just like a, I don't know if better's the right word, but because like the leg and the cuff, you can obviously alter the length of those pretty easily without changing the fit of the sock, but the foot of the sock has to be long enough for you to wear it.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, I think sometimes if people only have, let's say they only have 70 grams of yarn, then you can just split it in half, and if you start a toe-up sock, like once you get past the heel, like it doesn't really
potentially stop anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how long it is, unless you know you have a specific thing that you want it for, or like if a pattern has a specific number of rows of a repeat. But it's much easier to alter a sock in terms of the leg length, and I have had a few times where I've had to rip out a lot of a sock because I kind of miscalculated how much yarn, and then I got to the foot and didn't have enough yarn to complete the foot. So I think I would like to knit, like learn how to knit toe-up socks, and like learn, I guess it's just a bit of trial and error, like your measurements for calculating the number of rows you need on the foot and stuff. But I think maybe a all over patterned sock is just not
the way to go.
Like to learn to knit toe-up socks,
like
I think
you'd start with
just
one of those
pick a vanilla
ones.
sock. So that is my two dream weaving things, is just actually to revisit
some old
projects and finish those, because I think I have cast on enough new things recently.
Interesting. I guess it's like the knitting equivalent of like shopping your wardrobe kind of thing, sort of.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people will have like a goal to knit from stash.
Yeah.
So that's like a shopping your own yarn shop. Well, I probably do have a yarn shop worth of yarn. Just about. But to actually, finish some projects and stop casting on new ones. But I mean, famous last words. But I think I will definitely have a goal. Like, maybe not, I don't know if it's realistic for me to make a goal to not start anything new, but at least that by our next episode, I would want to at least, I think, have finished this sock. Like, that's probably realistic. I don't know if it's realistic to have finished a pair of all over pattern socks, but to have at least made a start on revisiting this. So probably at least to have frogged it and relaxed the yarn, and then we'll see how we go. That's my dream weaving. How about you?
I don't know if I have anything like super specific in mind. I like just thinking like our friends who are expecting their first baby. That's coming up pretty fast. I think it's kind of
they
like
said they're due just before Christmas.
So yes,
and actually it isn't, because it's their first baby, and I think for first babies they're often a little bit late. So maybe it may even be born on Christmas.
Maybe. So yeah, the thing that I was actually thinking, because I do have some. I can't remember, it was called like Chunky Monkey or something like that from Shepiers. Is that how you say it? Or Sheppers or something?
Shepiers.
Is it a Dutch brand? Which is quite a chunky yarn. So I guess if I were
it's very like bright colours.
Yes,
isn't it?
I got some like bright, sort of like a rainbow kind of like selection of colours. So I guess because that's fairly like bulky, I honestly can't even remember like what the actual weight of it is, but like I guess something in that would knit up fairly quickly, and probably if it's sort of like, I think that was some sort of acrylic blend as well, so it would be machine washable to do some sort of maybe like baby blanket or something in that would.
I think I did ask him, that's our friend, like if they had like a theme or colour scheme or whatever, and I think she said they're painting the nursery green.
Okay.
But apart from that, she said they don't really have any particular. And I think she said to me, like, I think she was like, we would love anything that you make, obviously. But if you, because I think I just asked her, is there anything in particular or any theme that you're going with, like, just so I know. And I think she said one thing that they would like is some kind of like toy, like either knitted or crocheted toy that they could hang from a mobile. So I guess that's what I was kind of thinking, to make some little like amigurumi or something like that they can hang from a mobile.
I guess if it's like green, if that's sort of like a forest theme, like some birds or something,
that'd
be cute.
So we'll see. But yeah, so I guess that's about it. All we have for today's episode. Yep. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us for this episode, particularly if you are still watching at the end.
It's a bit of a long one, I think. But...
yeah, like I guess we just had lots of different projects. If you have any questions about any of the projects that we mentioned, you can always leave a comment and we'll make sure to answer. But like we said before, we try and put as much information as possible in the description box, and we also have links to our Ravelry and Instagram accounts, although I must say my Ravelry is not up to date. I think at the moment I've been using like Ravelry to like browse for patterns, but not
like
necessarily.
I think I have,
to keep track of
like a wish list of, more than 100 different patterns kind of thing.
Yeah.
Probably just finish one.
Yeah. So, but not necessarily to like document my projects, but but most of them I can remember stuff. So if you do have a question, you can always leave a comment. If you don't have a question, you can always let us know what project you were working on while you watched this episode. And if you did like the video, it helps out our channel to give the video a thumbs up. And I think it just tells YouTube that you liked the video, and it will share this content with other people who watch, I guess, similar genre of videos.
KnitTube. What's the crochet equivalent of?
I don't know, I guess crochet tube. I don't know.
Yarn tube, I guess, would be
a craft tube. I don't know.
Would be like a general.
And yeah, if you did like the video and you're not yet subscribed to our channel, obviously we would very much appreciate it if you did subscribe, and we would love to see you in some of our future videos as well. Our next video will probably be a knit and chat, like we kind of do a normal episode interleaved with a knit and chat. So that will be our next episode coming up whenever,
in a couple of weeks after whenever this goes up.
Yep. But yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. And until next video, we wish you happy stitching. Bye.